Today we have another young Indian with us as part of the Voice of the Young series. Hello everyone, good to be with you again. We have Niyanta Desai with us. Over to you, Niyanta.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to all the viewers. And thank you so much, sir, for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure. And I look forward to a very fruitful discussion with you. So, sir, would you like me to just kind of begin with a little bit of my background and what it is that I've been doing over the past couple of years?
Yes, yes, go
Yes, sir.
ahead.
So I come from a town called Surat in Gujarat.
By
Now,
the way,
Gujarat,
by the way, that's a very well-known town.
sir, I think it's well known for diamonds, obviously.
No, but
But
it's
in
all.
terms
Isn't there some saying in Gujarati which is like eat in Surat and die in
Yeah,
Banaras? So can
Surat
you?
nu Jaman and Kashi nu Maran. It's essentially that once you've tasted food in Surat,
Yeah,
that's literally, and you should achieve peace in Kashi.
yeah. So I know
That being
enough.
said,
I know enough Gujarati to know this. I've
right.
never been to Surat. I've never eaten the food in Surat. But
So that then it's definitely a hint for you to then visit Surat and eat its foods for sure.
okay,
Uh, yes,
yeah.
sir.
So
So
Surat
the
people from Surat are proud of their food. I never
yes,
heard
sir.
it.
I think
I never heard of any other city that you come here to eat.
yes, sir, for sure. It's, I think, rightfully so because here, I feel like nobody enjoys their food as much as Gujaratis do. We take a lot of pride in our food and we enjoy our food.
Yeah.
So I feel like, I can understand why people have this image of Gujaratis and for like very
No,
logical
okay.
reasons.
Listen, my wife is Marathi speaking, but she grew up in Baroda and Ahmedabad.
Oh,
So,
how nice,
so I have
sir.
been to Ahmedabad many times, and my in-laws used to have a home in Ahmedabad till just recently. So,
All right.
I have a lot of Gujarati friends, so I know what you are talking about, but not Surat. Okay.
Right. But
All right. So good. Let's continue, please. You're
yes,
from
sir. So
Surat.
I'm from Surat. So Surat is a city of textiles and diamonds, and honestly, it comes with a sense of opulence that the city is rich and it's full of um, wealth and all of that. But in terms of, I feel like education and liberal education, it's somewhat lacking. So I also took the mainstream path. I took science in my plus two, and I was on my way to become an engineer. But then I've always been in love with social sciences, and my gut told me to kind of not pursue engineering and take up another course instead, which is why I pursued this triple major from Christ University, Bangalore. So it was a triple major in economics, political science, and sociology, which I thought at that time would kind of help me to gain an interdisciplinary perspective of social issues, which is what I thought I would want to work in later in life, which is also what that still holds true. And I felt like a lot of socioeconomic problems, especially in a country like India, which is so vast and diverse and has such rich cultural tapestries, there's no one size fits all solution. And there's no one way of looking at problems. So I felt like these three subjects would kind of help me to understand from a very critical and multidisciplinary lens why exactly things tend to go bad. It's not that you don't have entities or institutions that do not want to work on these issues. It's just a lot of things are not understood the way they ought to be.
Okay.
So that brought me to this course in Christ University, Bangalore, and it was a big cultural shock for me to come from Surat to Bangalore. Um, but it was a nice place for discussion. Everyone was very impassioned in this course. Everyone had a lot of thoughts. So I remember having very heated discussions with my classmates. And post my degree, I wanted to get into academia. I have always been very fascinated by behavioral economics and how you can use them to formulate better policies. So I remember reading Daniel Kahneman's book. I remember reading Hans Rosling's
Yeah.
Factfulness, Predictably Irrational, a lot of books on this
Yeah.
genre.
Yeah.
Raghuram Rajan's The Third Pillar, and they incited me an interest in the sense that I found it terribly exciting that humans are very complex but so simple, in that sense that um, everyone tends to behave in the same manner. I mean, we We take pride in the fact that we are homo economicus, we are the rational beings, but uh, we uh, we- uh, we are very simple in that manner where we kind of default or do things of those sorts. I felt like, this would be a great idea how we can use nudges to guide people in taking better decisions, in how the
Mm.
government can guide people in nudge them towards better
Yeah.
actions.
Yeah. Understood.
So
Yeah.
yes, sir. So that was what I thought I would want to work at, and since I was also I graduated in the year of the pandemic when the
Yeah.
pandemic had hit the country. So there was a lot of uncertainty and confusion. And I, for fact, was very confused and I was just very clueless. So I took to LinkedIn and I started networking. I started speaking to a lot of people every day. I used to speak to two, three people over the call. I used to pester everyone that, hey, can you talk to me? What is it that you're doing? Can you tell
Mm.
me about your work? And that is something I always tell people, that it's very, very important for you to network at this age, especially because I have gotten multiple opportunities only because of my networking on LinkedIn, where people, just a casual conversation over coffee, and people found that, I could be a great fit to their team. So I did not even have to ask them that, hey, can you refer me or can you help me with this opportunity? So networking has immensely helped me. It also helped me to kind of realize where exactly I would want to work at.
Yeah.
So that being said, I wanted to get into academia, but things didn't go as planned. I think destiny had something else in
Yeah.
store for me.
Yeah.
So I had a lovely conversation with someone who worked at Sattva Consulting. It's a social impact consulting firm. So, for my viewers who are wondering about what social impact consulting is, how it's different from business consulting is that in business consulting, you work to increase the revenue and profitability of your client. But in social impact, you try to increase the impact of their CSR initiatives, which is
Okay.
mandated by the government of India.
Yeah.
So how, let's say your Tata Chemicals has a project on sanitation in XYZ area, and they are providing free water services and also increasing the awareness amongst the people there about, why is it important to consume clean water? What can you do to make your water clean? And why is it important for proper wash facilities? So how can you increase the impact of such an initiative?
Yeah.
So that is what social impact consulting firm does. And I had not previously known about this sort of line of work. So for me, it was a very new stream that I picked. But the work honestly opened my eyes to the world in the sense that. So, can I share one or two incidents of me working on the field?
Of course.
Yes, sir.
Are you
So,
going to
one of
show
my
some? Are you going to show some slides?
I have not prepared the slides, but I would be happy to share them with people
No,
on LinkedIn.
I'm just asking in case you want, then I have to give you the authority. But if you're just going to talk, it's fine.
Yes,
Please.
sir. But I would,
Uh,
yes, sir.
uh,
I used to do impact measurement and advisory, where initially, so the process is that a company invests its funds into a particular intervention, be it an intervention that works in the sector of education, wash, women empowerment, rural development, so on and so forth. And after a couple of months, these companies want to know what the ROI is on the project and what essentially the project has been doing.
yeah.
So आप 6 crore पैसा डाल रहे हो project में, so is it actually getting any sort of tangible impact,
Right.
or
Right. Right.
is your money just going down the drain?
Yeah.
So I used to design evaluation tools, research methodology. I used to do stakeholder management. I used to train data enumerators to collect the data on the field. And I used to go to the field myself to interact with the community members, everyone involved, be your secondary or primary beneficiaries, your program team managers, everyone involved in the loop. And one of my
No, okay.
earliest projects.
Niyanta, can I just stop you for a minute? Is this after the project is done or you are helping in the design?
Right, sir. So most of your impact evaluations tend to occur during the end of the project, or during the middle when the company wants to take a call whether the project is going well. So should
Yeah.
they sustain the project or should they close the project?
Yeah. It's like a midterm review. Okay.
Yes, sir. So you
Okay.
can do a baseline, midline, end line.
Yeah.
Often we do impact evaluations after 2 years of the project has
Understood. Yeah.
ceased.
Yeah.
So the
Understood.
timelines really depend on the client. But we used to build our data research methodology and research tools. So the OECD DAC framework is what we used to use
Okay.
for impact measurement. So it used to assess the effectiveness, sustainability, coherence, relevance of the project. So there were 6 pillars, and we used to use a very standard framework and nothing better than OECD.
Yeah.
So we used to use their framework for impact evaluations.
Yeah.
And I gained very interesting insights when I was on the ground, because I feel like a lot of our public policies tend to be very intuitive. We feel like, chalo poverty hai to paise de do.
Yeah.
It's Sir, I think you would also have a lot of people asking you a very basic question: ki if inflation is there, then why does the government not print money? And
Yeah.
I think every economist just grapples with this. How do we explain to people that it's
Yeah.
not as simple as that?
No.
So
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, the notion of social impact evaluation is actually also built into World Bank projects. Okay. And the World Bank has its own internal unit. And in a way, we actually have to build into the project design how will we measure the impact. Okay.
correct,
So we don't do it. I mean, I no longer I'm a consultant for the World Bank, but my aim always used to be what does it all mean when we design the project? What does it mean in terms of the impact on the people rather than on the actual output, right?
right,
So actual output might be you're going to electrify 1,000 homes. Okay. But what is the impact? What does it mean?
correct.
Right.
Yeah,
So for
output is
me,
just the houses being
yeah.
electrified.
So for me, what we used to call as the outcome was always more important for me than the output. So that's social impact, to go but anyway, let me not talk. Let's listen to you. I'll
So
never stop. Once I start, I'll never stop. So let me stop.
I
So
think so. We should have a conversation about this very
offline,
soon.
offline, but please continue.
Offline.
Yeah. Don't
Yes,
let
sir.
me talk. Otherwise, I'll never stop.
No, 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 nothing like that. So,
Okay, you go ahead, please.
I
Tell
think, sir,
us.
as young economists or consultants in the making, we would love to hear from very senior, experienced people like yourself. So I think it's we would love to. But anyway,
Yeah.
like you said, so the outcome and output tend to be very short term. In the sense, if an organization has said we are going to electrify 1,000 households, then that is not your impact. The impact is how it translates into better livelihoods for them, or how it translates to better opportunities for them, which I thought, given the timelines of a projects, were somewhat we were not able to do so.
Yeah.
Things were a little out of our hands
Yeah.
because of the timeline, and and that is what the client also used to demand. But essentially, I used to feel like, why is it that we have not able to tackle a lot of our socio-economic problems? There have been generations of people and generations of gifted and brilliant minds who have been working on this. Why is it that it's not, you know, taking any tangible, impactful shape?
Yeah.
And I used to feel like a lot of our policies tend to be very intuitive and misguided. We just feel like, ऐसा होना चाहिए तो हो जाएगा.
Huh.
For example, I remember there was a one laptop per student scheme. It
Yeah.
was initiated by an MIT professor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and sir, it came with a lot of pomp and a lot of promise that, it's going to help the students in developing countries to an extent that it's going to put them at par with students in, your developed nations. And it
Yeah.
showed a lot of promise. But all of us know that it was a great failure.
Yeah.
It was
The design was stupid, I would say. It made no sense to me whatsoever because nobody knew what the impact was.
correct.
And
There was no
it's so costly an intervention. It's ill suited to so many students whose priorities are different. You're just
correct.
throwing it down their throat. I never supported it, but sorry, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So, like you said, sir, there was no benchmarking, right? You could
Yeah.
not understand. There were no RCTs done to kind of see the. It was just that, this is what we think. This is intuitive. So, they rolled out. the policy, I think a lot of funds were put into the scheme, and ultimately there were no tangible outcomes that could be seen.
No.
It was a great failure. But again, we have very successful experiments that do not seem very intuitive, in the sense that in the Nordic countries, in Switzerland, there's annual snow clearing, because a lot of snow accumulates on the pavements and the roads, and it becomes difficult for commuters to travel on these roads. And one person said that, is snow clearing actually gender neutral?
Yeah.
um, and what they found was very interesting. They found that there are a lot of accidents, snow related accidents, and a greater proportion of the people who are admitted to the hospital because of the snow clearing, sorry, the accumulated snow, is women. And
Yeah.
why is it so? Because women tend to be more cash poor, women tend to be the ones who use roads most frequently. The men in the family are the ones who you know, go to work more frequently. They are the ones who own their own transport, they own their vehicles. But women, because they also do a lot of unpaid labor, and they do something called trip chaining, which is essentially, you travel to one location, but you do a lot of things
Yeah.
in the process. So you
Yeah.
maybe drop your child to school, maybe you take
Understood.
your
Yeah. Okay. Trip chaining is
and
clear. So let's continue. Right.
yes, sir. So they found that it's not actually gender neutral. Snow clearing, who would have thought that such a simple, innocent activity actually has such big implications, policy implications? And the government realized that, and they found that it's easier for them to actually clear the roads first, make the streets where passengers walk easier and more safer for them to walk on, and then clear the roads. And what they found was very startling. The number of accidents went down, and it had a cascading effect, because when you are hospitalized, it's also a loss to the economy, because you're essentially out of work.
Yeah.
So now the number of accidents went down, and the loss to the economy due to the number of people who are unable to work also went down. And it was a brilliant experiment. It was not even an experiment, it was just coming from a sense of, let's do something new now, let's think about this in
Yeah.
a different light.
Yeah.
And that really got to me. If anyone wants to read this is a book called Invisible Women, which essentially talks about data bias in a world that's designed for men. So it's a feminist text, and also talks about a lot about urban infrastructure.
Yeah.
So that got me going, and I really was very keen to understand how we can improve our policies
Yeah.
by involving more rigorous data and evidence. And it doesn't have to be intuitive. Your policies need to have RCTs, and they need to have more evidence. So which is why my work at Satwa took me to places like that. In fact, it's a very interesting example. There's a organization called Jnana Prabodhini in Pune, which has been working in that area for, I think, the past 3 4 decades. It's a very very established NGO, and the government has zero penetration there, because the villages where they work at are very rural and very interior. It's completely cut off from the rest of the world. Really, really hard journey to get into those villages. And what they found was, they wanted to increase the awareness amongst the community members regarding health. So they used to conduct awareness camps regarding your why is it important for women to have regular checkups, how you can how to identify cataract, and where you can go to treat your cataract, about menstrual health, a lot of these things. And they had very exciting ways to do that. In fact, they were trying to teach women the importance of having a healthy diet, so they don't have anemia later.
Yeah.
And what they did was, they told these women that in Navratri, we will come and check your blood count, hemoglobin count. Whoever has the highest hemoglobin count, हम आपको साड़ी gift कर देंगे free.
Good.
So all the women were very excited,
Yeah.
and this was an incentive for them कि चलो अच्छी सुंदर साड़ी मिलेगी. So
Correct.
all of these women started consuming a very healthy and rich diet, and it had rippling effects. They would tell their friends also that, hey, see, I'm eating a very healthy diet, and I feel less lethargic. Actually feel very very healthy. I feel very refreshed, and I think it's doing wonders to me. So that kind of had a cascading effect. And it was a very simple incentive. Who would have thought ki sari doge to people would take this very seriously. So that was a great experiment, and I would have never thought about that ki aisa kar sakte hain. So that got to me. And another incident was where, because these are very agrarian areas, so you don't tend to have very high income households here. And the land is also not cultivated in a manner where it can produce output consistently over the years. So what these people did was they taught women, so they utilized the power of SAGs. They taught these women how to make agro produce. And because they couldn't sell it to outsiders because very far away, the organization said that, hey, you produce it, we will also teach you how to make batata vada, we'll teach you how to make Maharashtrian poli.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, all of these will teach you how to make.
My wife
You
is
just,
Marathi, so
yes, sir, that is why I think you would be very interested in this conversation.
batata vada
So,
is pohe,
yeah,
batata vada I want.
yes, sir. So they used to make very tasty snacks,
Yeah,
and they try to solve the problem. That, hey, what is your problem? You
yeah,
have the you have inventory, you have the raw material. What's the problem? The problem is logistics. So
yeah,
what we are going to do is we are going to send a vehicle of ours to your village. Let's say every fourth night or every month, however mutually decided, and we will carry your produce to Pune free of cost, and we will also advertise your
yeah,
products. So
yeah,
they formed a WhatsApp group. A lot of residential societies and a lot of residential associations were informed that, hey, you're getting very raw and very very fresh produce,
yeah,
so you can give us orders.
yeah.
So they actually did marketing for them, and they also took the women for field trips where they would
Yeah.
teach them that, this is how you should be pricing your products,
Yeah.
this is how you should package them. And it worked out beautifully because I talked to all these women, and it had cascading effects in the sense that now, because the women are earning more than the men,
Yeah.
uh, their families are taking them more seriously. They actually have a greater say in household decisions.
Yeah.
It's also helping their children, helping them put their children to better schools. uh, who would have thought that, you just give them a vehicle and teach them how to make these products, and it's going to work wonderfully well.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially a lot of these experiments, I also went to Nagaland for a rice fortification program, um, where essentially there's again zero government penetration, a very difficult terrain, very beautiful country, but very very difficult terrain to kind of maneuver. It's just
So how did
um,
you get there? I mean, from the capital in some, how did you get to these places?
so Nagaland essentially just has one place which is on flat land, which is Dimapur.
Yeah.
Dimapur is also an armed center,
Yeah.
so militancy is a little bit less there. And because it's Nagaland has one village per mountain, so
Yeah.
even the distance might be 20 kilometers. It would take you easily 4 or 5 hours to travel
Right.
from one location to the other.
Right.
Uh, in fact, one of the aspirational districts in Nagaland, which is where my work was, called Kifri,
By the way,
it was,
for those people who are watching, aspirational means backward.
yes. Yeah, I think it's a misnomer.
No,
So let
it's
me keep
it's
using it that
like
word.
giving a good name to a bad situation.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
aspirational district. Let's hear.
Yes.
Yeah,
So, like Sir said, Niti Aayog had come up with a list of aspiration districts where most of your development work needs to be concentrated. So,
yeah.
Nagaland has this district called Kifri,
Hmm.
and a beautiful place, sir. But the distance between, I think, Kohima and Kifri is only 200 kilometers.
Yeah.
But the journey took me 15, 16 hours in the car. Very treacherous
Hmm.
terrain.
Hmm.
You would suddenly wake up and see pura valley hai niche. You can
Hmm.
easily fall to your death. In
Hmm.
fact, we saw a lot of broken vehicles which had just plummeted from the mountain.
Yeah.
We came across a lot of landslides. So the
Yeah.
journey was very terrifying that,
Yeah.
any moment a landslide can hit me and it's going to be the end of my life right now. But very interesting journey. And the government penetration was very poor there, because I think Northeast tends to get a lot less funds than other states. So even though there were government officers who wanted to work, because of paucity of funds and because of a very difficult terrain, um, development work wasn't proceeding at a rate as it should. So there were a lot of NGOs working there. There was an NGO which was working on rice fortification, so which used to dispel myths about rice fortification. So your PDS, IPDS, and all of these systems, midday meals, they were serving rice mixed with micronutrients.
Yeah.
And people used to think, ye to plastic rice hai, the government is trying to poison us.
Yeah.
So the organization actually helped dispel a lot of these myths. They used to hold practical, fun activities where they would say, "Acha, identify what's normal rice, what's mixed rice. You cook food. Both are very flavorsome." So, and they did a great job. And in another location, it was a mobile medical unit where the government also has a mobile medical unit, but for that you need a medical officer.
Yeah.
Now, Kifli is such a terrain, sir, that very difficult to live in. So most government officers take a transfer from there,
Yeah.
and the district only has one hospital,
Yeah.
and villages. If anyone were to fall sick or has an urgent issue to be addressed, it will take them easily 10-15 hours to reach the hospital.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, it's very fatal. The person has already passed away, and the hospital is also not a super specialty. So,
Yeah.
a lot of things cannot be treated. So this organization came up with the idea that, hey, we will actually we will have our own medical mobile unit. We will go to the villages. We'll do a lot of testing and we'll do a lot of awareness,
Yeah.
which is what they did. So the government mechanism, if I may be bold enough to say so, actually failed the people there. But it
Yeah.
was your grassroots organizations who kind of reined in and stepped up and said that, hey, we are going to do this.
Yeah.
So all of these things essentially taught me that it's not that no one wants to work for welfare or does not want to work for development. It's just that if we have an eagle's eye view, we often tend to miss the things that are happening on the grassroots. And it's very important for us to bring our learnings from our engagements on the ground, our
Yeah.
observations from the ground, to a policy level.
Yeah.
And how can you do that? You
Yeah.
bring in RCTs, you bring hard evidence to show that this is something that is going to work out, because exchequer tends to lose a lot of money in very useless schemes
Yeah.
that do not pan out. So we need hardcore evidence to show the value of an intervention. And I think India itself is a very exciting place to be in right now. So um, there are a lot of organizations that are doing work on that. So maybe if the government can strengthen its linkages with these organizations, it would actually be very, very impactful and effective in terms of welfare mechanisms. And I, on a personal front, also wanted to understand how we can use the analytical tools of economics to understand and address these issues, which is why I'm actually headed to pursue my master's in economics from Madras School of Economics this year. So very
But
excited for that.
you shifted from Satwa Consulting, I saw on your profile. What did you switch to?
Sir, I actually quit Satwa so I could
Yeah.
go back to school.
Yeah.
I felt like it was time for me to upskill myself
Yeah.
and also, work in this sector. I think this is my calling. The development sector is my calling.
Yeah.
Um, and the reason why I also did not apply abroad, despite having WorkX, was due to the very simple reason that India is bursting with possibilities right now. It's doing very, very well.
Yeah.
uh, and I really think that for me to kind of pursue a degree from a foreign university and then come back to India and have a superiority complex in terms of saying that, hey, this is how we should design policies, is something I feel is not right. I need
Okay.
to be working with the people in India to understand how eventually later down the line I can address these issues in the capacity of an advisory slash consultant. So this is how my journey has brought me here, and
Yeah.
I think Satwa has played a very, very pivotal role. I think it has opened my eyes to the world, and I think it has also helped me understand where exactly I want to work at, which is the intersection of data and policy. So this is how my journey is going now.
Okay, good. That's very good. But I saw Swachhale on your profile. What is this Swachhale? Are you
Yes, sir.
working? Yeah.
So Swachhale, I'm actually working for the outreach. So Swachhale is an NGO which was formed in Bombay a long time ago, and it used to work. The then MP there, Poonam Mahajan, used to work with the NGO. So they essentially um, bring awareness regarding sanitation, because there's a lot of open defecation in the country. So how can you bring awareness regarding these things? So essentially, it was more of a community outreach, but now we are trying to have more participatory events wherein we engage people in discussions or small competitions, to essentially, and they also have done a lot for sanitation in the terms of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan,
Yeah.
to install public toilets
Yeah.
and clean up the place. So that is what the organization does, and I am actually essentially helping the organization to build up partnerships and contacts with NGOs and firms that are working in this area. So how we can leverage their information and their expertise to uh, identify a target beneficiary, and how we can work with them, and how we can have more community. We can make inroads into the community. So
Yeah.
that is what I'm essentially doing there.
Okay, wonderful. So, but you will continue to work with them while you're a student, or yes, or you will just become a full-time student?
I'm actually working there as a part time basis only.
Yeah.
So I would be working there while I'm a full fledged student.
Okay.
Uh, but the the thing being that I think right now is the time for me to get back to school
Yeah.
and understand these issues from a more from at in depth. And I think economics is a wonderful tool for you to see the world with. It's a beautiful lens, and I think everyone should study economics at least once in their life.
Yeah.
I think it's just it's a tool that you use to see the world. It's not an ends to a means to
Okay.
an end. It essentially helps you to see the world. So that just propelled me to go for my masters now.
Okay, great. Uh, Before we end, anything else you'd like to add?
Nothing, sir. I think if any of the viewers are interested in this sort of space to work in, I'd be happy to kind of have a conversation with them. Or if anyone feels passionate about this the same way as I do, I would love to have a conversation with them. And I think, yeah, that's it. I think we should all look after each other, and especially like share our insights and experiences. So if anyone wants to kind of have a conversation with me, I am definitely up for it.
Well, you're certainly passionate. There's no doubt about that. The passion is
Thank
just coming out of your ears. We can feel it. So I'm really
Thank you,
glad
sir. That
to have
means a
talked to
lot.
you, because it's really very, very exciting to hear the India has people like you. I mean, it's really
Thank you so much,
something.
sir.
It's
That
really
means
something.
tremendously.
And, that's, you are honest and fair, and you are not, you say, bold enough, but you recognize the ground reality that policies may or may not work, and they are not working, and you are honest enough to say, listen, this isn't working. And you're honest. You are telling me that there are places that are so remote that the government actually has very little impact there, right? Or so far has had very little
Correct.
impact. And we tend to forget that there are such places. We tend to forget because we look at GDP data, we look at national data, but really we tend to forget that there is a part of India that is really behind. Right? It's not there at all, and if you just look at the data, national data, and even
Very skewed.
you're telling me that this is true even in Maharashtra, which is one of the leading states in India, that there are parts which are way behind. So it's really good to hear it from somebody who's been there instead of just talking about it. And so I say thank you very much. And
No, thank you so much, sir, for giving me this
let's keep
platform. I
in touch.
really
Let's keep in touch. Let's hear from you offline what's going on, and we can talk offline about other things. Let's say bye here now, and
for
I'll be
sure.
back to the viewers. I say I'll be back with another young person or an expert soon. In the meantime, bye bye. Okay,
Yeah.
bye.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great evening ahead. Thank you, sir.